I want to talk for a few moments on frustration and deep personal frustration. How do we overcome that so that we all have ideals that we hold that we want to do, whether it's maintaining our home in a certain way, whether it's pursuing a certain career goal, business goal, or an ideal about how we would like to be physically healthy and maintain a certain weight and a certain lifestyle regarding physical activity, exercise, and those things. And yet, we're all pretty good starters. We're all pretty good at making that that first effort. But what happens is we start so many times, and we get frustrated for whatever reason, and that frustration leads us to stop. I know that sounds very simplistic, but that's about how it goes. We lose the, we really are, we're all good storytellers too. I haven't met anybody that wasn't good at telling their own story. And that's one of the things that's so unique about human beings, is that we build culture, we build identities around this storytelling, collective and mainly personal storytelling. So we're good at that. We like to we like to tell stories, so that when we've done these things and we try to match our life and our actions to our ideals. And I don't think there's anything wrong with ideals. I think they're healthy. I think we all need to be conscious of what our ideals are, and we need to be actively pursuing in some way, or at least internally preparing to meet the challenges that seem to spontaneously come up within us, that seem to be the very breath and soul of life, is that there is no static state. There'll never be a time in our existence when we are unchallenged. Even if somebody were to drop on your doorstep all the money you would ever need, and to give you the things that you thought you needed, whether that's constant approval from others, whether that's approval from the other sex, whether it's an expanded intellect, and whatever the case may be, a golden pristine vocabulary. It can be so many things, that you would still experience frustration. And now you would have an enormous challenge and an opportunity to look around and see that it was never the external world that kept you from achieving what your ideals were. That it was the internal state of being that you were maintaining and telling your story about. So, how is this practical? How do we achieve those ideals? Not over large stretches of time, but one day, so that if it is part of our goal to maintain some kind of healthy lifestyle, that we can plan and execute a simple plan for one day for 15 minutes of exercise. If that's what our goal is, and roundabout, if that's what we're idealized as, or what we think we can achieve realistically, then how do we get that 15 minutes into the day and do it on a consistent basis without succumbing to frustration? I really don't know another way than by rigorous self-inventory. And this really stems from genuine self-worth. That when we care enough about our individual state of being, how we feel about things, so that we go through our daily sojourn and something happens that was completely unplanned for and it's going to cause us a hassle. Let's just say it's a hassle. How do we react to that? What is the emotional state? Does the external environment have the ability to determine how I feel about that? Or am I conscious through the whole interaction of my state of being and my reaction? I've never found another way. I've never found the easier, softer way. And I've looked. I've looked everywhere I can think to look. Practiced every practice I could think to practice. But there seems to be no other way available to us than some form or sort of daily inventory, where we link our thinking and our feelings to create congruency in our life. It's really an inner integrity to be honest about how we feel and what we're doing. So frustration, deep frustration. We want these things. We want to experience more financial abundance. We want to experience more health, and we want to experience more personal fulfillment in our relationship with others. Now, if you're experiencing perfect unity of self in all of these areas of your life, I don't know why you would be listening to this. You should be off walking on water somewhere. But everyone I know, and definitely what my personal experience teaches me, is that if you're not engaged in a significant challenge in your life, then the emotions of joy that comes from the fulfillment of anticipation, the emotions of accomplishment, which means having a conscious intention and seeing the fulfillment of that conscious intention by design and plan. Without challenge, we don't experience personal growth. Now, just a bit of mysticism here. When we look at nature, when we take time to go into the woods or to plant a garden or whatever gets us close to the earth and a natural cycle of life, we see that nothing is in stasis. Everything is growing or it's dying. And everything is connected to everything else. You can't say that I'm holding nature in my hand, because nature is descriptive of an interconnectivity where everything depends on everything else. It's that way in our life, that there is no portion of our individual self and identity that we can say, this is who I am. And that's a funny thing to say, and it's a funny understanding at first. But there's no portion of our individual self that is in isolation from all of it. We have a persona that we present to the world. We have our beliefs that we hold, that no matter how hard we try, we can't give voice or description to. But we can speak from that deep conviction and meaning. But what we say will be unscripted, because it's coming from our emotions and our beliefs. So that how does this apply to overcoming deep frustration that is keeping us from achieving something as simple as daily exercise, as simple as reconciling with a family member, with a friend, as simple as doing something that we know will take 5 or 10 minutes and have a benefit across the board, so that what may take 2% of our time has 100% benefit to the rest of our time. And what is the very mechanisms of frustration? Is it conflicting identity systems? That on the one hand we believe we should be someone committed to physical health, to to good stewardship of our resources, and on the other, we have an identity that says the counter to that argument by proof of the mind and the recitation and the repetition of constant internal imagery and internal voice, so that it works like this. You walk into a gym and you see these healthy people everywhere. They're fit, they're in shape, they look like they got their act together. And the whole environment compels you to contrast your current situation with your ideals. So that, in truth, you aren't that healthy individual who has healthy patterns, who has the discipline to do something on a consistent basis for your own health and well-being. You're not. You're somebody attempting to develop that discipline. That truth becomes strikingly aware to people who aren't really doing a review, a moral review every day. So that there's never a break in the running ego commentary for reflection, and also to contrast those intellectualizations with what they deeply hold as their personal meaning. So, let's just say that an individual finds a time during the day to be alone and do this review. Whether they're, typically morning people and they enjoy doing those things in the morning, or evening reflection, or perhaps they want to be alone at lunch and reflect. But it's an act of compassion and caring for yourself. And also, I found with people that very few people develop a discipline of self-reflection and daily self-inventory who haven't been seriously challenged and been able to overcome those challenges in life. So that the saying, pain is the touchstone to change, rings true here. That we develop this daily inventory in response to physical and psychological pain. Isn't that interesting? This is we laud and we love to be in the presence of people that are deeply soulful. And we instinctually realize that nobody has a deeply soulful being or way of being in the world that hasn't experienced and overcome some deep personal pain, sorrow, and catastrophe. That's actually what called and emerged for and presented the challenge and the opportunity for the individual to really dig deep and ask those tough questions. Who am I? What do I really want out of life? What am I really doing? And does what I really want and what I'm really doing, are they congruent? Do they match? The root and cause of frustration is incongruency between what we're thinking and what we're feeling and what we believe. You see, most people, I'm not trying to run people down. I'm just saying what I see. They have a moral development that was programmed in their childhood and adolescence, but remains unreviewed until usually some life calamity calls them to begin a practice of review. See, it's not something that's taught. It's taught as a prescription for ailment, but not as a practice of well-being. And that's really what I'm trying to emphasize here. That what does cause healing, that what does improve an internal quality of life, an internal dialogue, is the very thing that people wait until they're deeply embedded in pain and suffering to pursue. You see, we don't look at this as something that we practice in order to develop skill and moral inventory, so that nothing has the power to bring us to our knees and shake the foundations of what we believe ourselves to be and who we believe ourselves and who we know we are. That those triggers in the external environment that trigger debilitating shame in an individual, debilitating guilt, and fear. Fear is the gate for those for guilt and shame. You know, so we need to look at this fear, and we need to look at it calmly and plainly. And we have to learn to link our thinking and our feeling with our belief systems. So that, okay, we walk onto a situation. And I see this, and I see it in so many people. They're completely comfortable in the professional environment. They may run a masterful board meeting and give stunning presentations. But they are completely terrified of casual social interaction, or vice versa. The situation can be reversed. So what is the fear? What is that fear? I mean, what could you honestly be afraid of? When you're talking about lots of money on the table interacting, and even though in that kind of high-powered business setting, you're talking about taking mitigated risks. You know, you want to mitigate it, but you're still talking about taking risks. And it's a highly analytical and structured mind that can run a presentation well and gain consensus across a group. So why would these highly talented, high-powered people have no capacity to function in a casual social environment where there's no structured agenda and there's no explicit purpose? So that it's just an expression of people being together and spontaneously interacting. You know, we do it for, to have a good laugh. But that's an expression of an overly rigid personality type that, for shorthand, control freaks. They can't relax, but the fear is ultimately boils down to the judgment of others in either setting, from those who can be highly relaxed, unstructured events, are terrified in the highly structured business type or even school environment, and then those who are very capable and competent in the high-powered situation but terrified of the casual. It all boils down to judgment of others. That's the fear. And that ultimately boils down to our relationship with the unknown, how we deal with the unknown. Because honestly, we'll never know what another individual is thinking. We'll never truly know what an individual is feeling. Those are unknown variables, and there'll be infinite variables from here to the end. We can't know. But what is the prescription for that? What is the prescription for the individual that recognizes that in them? They're feared being judged by other people. That truly, monsters live in these other people's minds who might judge them. And beasts live in their hearts who might attack them. And they fear those judgments. And we see this because the number one fear in America is public speaking. Is to get in front of a large group of people and tell them what you think. You know? So, it's fear of judgment of others. It's fear of the unknown. And we compensate that by being controlling. Wanting to control other people's reactions, their emotions, and the whole 9 yards. So how do we get past that frustration that is built on the fear of judgments of others? And here's the secret weapon. It's denial. Isn't that funny? Denial has gotten a bad rap in my estimation. That denial is the first obstacle to overcome in the addicted individual. It's the first psychological resistance, is absolutely true. But just because it's that obstacle or hurdle at the beginning doesn't mean it has no place and relevance in the rest of our psychology, that there's not a healthy form of denial. We've actually, from what I can see, we've become a people-pleasing society. That we truly, these people go around and largely unconsciously want to gain the approval of the authority figures in their life, of their peer groups, of their close friends, of their family. And I'm not saying that's wrong. Approval's a great thing. It's a great feedback from the external environment that says this is socially acceptable. And I know I'm speaking in broad terms about something that's supposed to be casual and easygoing. But we have to deny the opinions of others as just the opinions of others. And I still know of no other way to do that than in personal inventory, a daily personal inventory. But if we haven't even realized that that's what we're seeking, that that's what we're after, that we fear the judgments of others, but we try to control the situation with approval. If we get their approval, everything's okay. Because the opinions of others are dangerous. You know, if they don't like me, I don't get to be who I am. My identity is built on their opinion of me. That's a very dangerous place to be psychologically. It's fear-prone. It's anxious. It's never allows for deep relaxation and reflection. Not even, on a daily basis, it won't allow for those things. And if we can't deeply reflect and deeply relax, we hold grudges. We judge others. So, this deep frustration is overcome by realizing that we fear the judgments of others instinctually. Because think about it. When we were children, if we didn't have the approval of our parents, part of us believed we wouldn't survive. That we would be abandoned. That if we didn't have their, able to maintain their attention and their approval, that we would ultimately be banished. And, this is in the child mind thinking, So, approval is a defense mechanism. But we deny it. We have to look at it plainly. That there are other people in your life. That everyone will be thinking their own thoughts about a situation. But what matters is what we personally believe that situation means. If we have given undue meaning to a situation that is that's not in alignment with what the actual reality is, we're going to experience that as deep anxiety, because it makes us powerless to change the situation. And it makes us rigid so that we can't even have spontaneous change to the situation. But how to do that deep denial of what other people think? Not by going into rebellion, which means you have to do something about it, or you're actively working against others That too is an overcompensation and a defense mechanism. So we don't have to rebel against what other people are thinking or feeling. We simply deepen our practice of rigorous self-inventory and going deeper into looking at what is the cause of. If you take a day in reverse order from the evening and you look at what has happened during the day and you work back to what was the cause. When did my state of being change? When did my thinking change? When did my thinking and my feeling become incongruent? And what did I do during that situation? Did I use a defense mechanism? Did I try to hide or run from my feelings? You see, when you learn a practice of daily inventory, what happens is when you silence the mind to a degree and you still the heart to a degree, the most relevant emotion shows up. And you have to find out what caused it, when it arrived, why it's there, and what your thinking was about it, so that you bring your thoughts and your feelings into alignment. And when you do that, when your eye is fixed on the congruency of thinking and feeling, and being authentic to that, the opinions of others don't matter much. Unless, I don't want to overly simplify this and say that, we shouldn't work with groups of people in problem solving or allow ourselves to be completely spontaneous and open in social settings. But I'm saying we don't have the capability and the power to do that if we're incongruent.